The Honorable Neilante Vanderpuye, you see, the issue about oversight responsibility keeps coming up every now and then. So we can't talk about you as an experienced member of parliament and not talk about the impact that, parliament itself has had over the period. So if citizens feel this way about your work, continuously, what has to be done to change the narrative so that, yes, the experienced MPs have been there, they're leaving with their knowledge and experience, and it's even going to aggravate the problem of the lack of effective oversight that Parliament is supposed to provide for us as a people. Honorable.
Well, thank you very much, Alfred, and let me take the opportunity to wish my colleagues on the panel a belated Merry Christmas, but a prosperous Happy New Year, and to my people, my friends and family. Alfred, this whole discussion must be structured on one principle. As a country, as a people, what do we intend to get out of our legislature? How do we prioritize our legislature among the three arms of government? In certain jurisdictions, the legislature is the most important arm in a democratic dispensation because of this same issue of oversight. And because they also make laws. So without the laws of the legislature, it becomes difficult for executive control to happen. So in many parts of the world, the legislature is the most important arm because they think that without a legislature, if the legislature is weak, they will not have strong institutions. They will have a very dictatorial executive. They will have a very corrupt system where oversight and, let me say, control will not be seen. So when you go to a place like, as Draman said, Norway, as well as the Scandinavian countries, you go to a place like Australia, you go to even the UK and the US, the legislature's role is so paramount. And so they take steps to make the institution strong. Not strong in terms of just the powers that they have, but strong in terms of the human resource and capacity. So they build them. To the extent that if you have one member of parliament, before that person will come into parliament, that person, the whole society, begin to see that this person has something to offer. This person is somebody that can be said to be a reliable person. This one is somebody who is going in there, and I'm sure that this person will deliver on the mandate I'm giving him. Here, like Dramani said, we can just, all the parties just get up, hold primaries. We do not even do due diligence on the people we even elect as parliamentary aspirants. We don't. And we've had cases where people with shady backgrounds have become members of parliament. If the parties have structures, stringent due diligence mechanisms to check people, see whether the person have the, then we can know. Two, I have also said that parliament is not just a place to elect anybody, because I have been through parliament.
Right.
When somebody enters parliament, I don't think parliament itself, that's enough to make that person worthy of the responsibilities we are putting on the person.
How do you mean?
Yeah, I'm elected into parliament. Put my own personal education and background and experience aside. Parliament organizes just some 3 days orientation. Some 3 days orientation. Sometimes it's not even 3 days. Sometimes 1 day. If you want to calculate the hours that you spent in the orientation, it's just about 12 hours. Yes, Dramani is here. He's been part of the orientation before. It is not something that you can say that is enough to prepare somebody who maybe has moved from the classroom as a people teacher into the legislature. What background does that person have? What are the expectations of the country in the position he is? taken, is it qualified to hold that responsibility? If it's not qualified, what do we do to improve that person and make that person adequate enough to discharge that responsibility so that that person, we can have worth out of that person? This is not done. So you enter parliament. If the person himself do not dispose himself to acquiring more knowledge, improving upon himself, adding value to himself, then that person will go through parliament and will just go through, like Draman said, without really making any impact. He could be there for uncountable years, but he will not make any impact. Because if that person does not desire to improve, the system itself do not make that person acquire or improve the way we want him to improve. He can sit in parliament, know how the bills are taken through, the readings and all those things, how they are passed and everything. That's all. That person may not be able to impact in the work in committee. He will not be able to impact on the work in the plenary. So that person will just go through. Like we say in the education circle, some people go through the classroom and not the classroom going to go through them.
So you just add to the numbers.
Yes. And so we need, as a country, we need to see what are we looking for? How do we really see the legislature in the scheme of our governance? If the legislature is that important, and we think that legislature has the power to oversight the executive, without which the executive could be dictatorial, could be abusive, could be corrupt. If that is the check we can have, then how do we make parliament so strong and adequately resourced, human resource, logistical resource, to be able to discharge that function? In the US, they have a committee in parliament. That committee is so powerful that they can check the executive, check the members of parliament itself. They check their own self. It's just like our oversight committee here. They at the end of the day, the year, they go through parliament itself, the work parliament has done, and find out whether parliament has done enough worthy of the budget that was given to parliament. Parliament should have done this, they didn't do. How can parliament sit and this mismanagement happened, corruption happened, this happened? They take steps to make sure parliament checks on itself. It's a committee of parliament.
But what we've seen over time is that it's all about the numbers.
Yeah.
You see, the minority, you have your say. So the majority will have its way.
You see,
no matter how bad the situation is,
Alfred,
you know that if the numbers game comes, that's what you are
that
playing
is why
with.
I'm saying,
That's why I'm saying that.
That's why I'm saying that. Until we come to the realization that this is what parliament as a country we expect of them, that will happen. Because let me tell you, recently in the US, the opposition, the Republicans have the numbers in Congress. But what did they do? Among themselves, they said, in the interest of US, this is what we want to do. Against the official position of the Republican Party. To the extent that there's, in the US Congress now, there is a group that is apolitical, irrespective of their political persuasions. When it comes to issues, from both sides, they come together and say, in the interest of America, this is the way we want to go. You understand? So much that the interest there is not about Democratic Party, Republican Party, but about United States of America. We have not gotten to that level, or we don't even want to get there. And so, like we have all analyzed, we have a provision in our constitution that makes parliament so subservient to the executive.
Because you want a ministerial appointment.
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's not only ministerial appointment, but there's so much fear in the executive, in members of parliament for the executive, that the executive can do anything to them. Look, I don't believe that the 80 people who got up, as Martin Pebu said, to ask the Ofori Atta to go were interested in positions. You understand? But as soon as the whip was cracked, they all backed down. They all backed down.
No, but at a point
Because
it became a majority position. Also, Chairman Sabonso himself said.
Yeah, but then what happened? They were all threatened that, look, we'll make sure you lose your seats. You understand? We'll make sure you lose your seats. And so because of that, they all backtracked. And it's in our system, it's real. Your political party can ensure that you don't survive
Your
parliamentary primaries. It's real. Look, many of the 18 that have just come out, before this week, we've talked in parliament, and they tell you, some of them, they've been targeted, and I said, you don't want to go through that humiliation, so they are just coming like the man said, they've been being pushed out. You understand?
I see.
Because of certain stands that they took in the course of their legislative functions. So until Parliament becomes so independent that they have that strength to say that, look, in this particular days, look, let's say, for example, Kwebu raised the issue. You remember last year, we voted against the budget. And then the first deputy speaker took over the chair the next day. And then had the majority voting. You understand? And overturning the decision we made. It was the same with the e-levy. Constitutionally, well, I don't want to, I'm not a lawyer, but
you are free to
express your opinion. With all parliamentary practice, everything have detected that when, according to the article in the Constitution and our standing orders, whoever is sitting in the chair presiding do not have a vote. But we have a situation where a speaker comes out of his chair to vote and then asks another person to go into the chair, and then after that person wants to get out to vote. It's not dramatic. So we are not asserting our independence. The strength of the legislature, it's independence. Legislators all over the world, they derive their strength from their independence, their autonomy. But because our parliament is so dependent on the executive, that autonomy, that power is not there. And so what do we desire as a country? Where do we go from here, as you said? How do we strengthen parliament? How do we make parliament so strong that no member of parliament will have a fear for the executive? No member of parliament will sit there and say that, look, I'm in parliament looking for an appointment from the executive. I'm in parliament, I'm looking for a favor from the executive. I'm in parliament, I'm looking for, let me say, some kickback from the executive. And I said, I'm going to do the bidding of the executive. Until we make parliament an institution where people can go in there and say, look, I'm going there as a professional, I'm going to exercise, do this work, and come out of it as somebody who thinks I have achieved something. It will be very, very difficult for people get into the legislature and be able to assert themselves, drive that autonomy, get out those independence clothes, and wear it and be strong in the house. Let me give you an example. We talk about those who are leaving experience. Yes. People will leave all the time because some of them come into parliament with a sort of idea, principles. They've heard about what parliament can do, but you enter and you are hit with
the reality. Yeah?
With the reality. Because let me give you an example. I was having a chat with Adomako Kisi, Honorable Adomako Kisi, and it's something that he made a comment that Kobra Domko had made before.
In fact, Dr. Kobra Domko is not going to be in the ninth parliament
with him
because he lost the primaries.
So it's not just about those who are going out. After the MPP primaries, we had more close about 13 people losing primaries. They are also going to suffer a lot of casualties.
That's the sitting MP.
Yes, a lot of casualties. So when you put the numbers together, we may be getting close to what Draman has said.
That's 60% of
it's
the
possible,
MPs in 2025.
Because right now we are close to almost about 70 people not going.
70 sitting MPs on
will not
both
be there
sides.
from both sides. Those who
Will not
have
be in-
willingly come out and those who have lost primaries. And then if the MPP primaries is held next month, and then we have the odd number of casualties, you may be getting close to the 60% the man talk about. Because I know that not less than 50 of them may be kicked out.
Not
from
less
their
than
primary.
50 of the 138.
Yes.
Well, I mean 137.
Well, I'm adding the independent.
I mean, well,
I'm adding the independent because whether we like
you-
it or
you-
not,
so
it's part of them.
from your own permutations, not
Yes.
less than 50 of them, the
Yes.
sitting NPP MPs,
Yes.
will lose the primaries.
Yes, a lot. Especially those who, from the beginning, were part of the Alan Chemati movement. A lot of them will suffer. A lot of them will suffer because there is an orchestrated
Wow.
plan to get them out. Some of them are being stubborn, and they want to they want to still fight. Somewhere like Eugene Entry, for example, it's obvious that the establishment is really prepared to kick him out, and he want to fight. He want to say that I would rather go and lose at the battle than to bow out. And they appear could be there are a lot of them. The few have just moved out, like Sanid, Suleiman Sanid, and the rest have just moved out. Somewhere like Sly, I will fight. So we start Tete.
Oh,
you know,
himself.
English
yes,
and Manfo.
yes, he want to fight. He he's ready to go out there and fight. So, if you look at that, what I'm saying here is that if these individuals, their pursuit, was it in the interest of the legislature? Was it in the interest of the nation? If that is it, why should their party take up a stand of punishing them when we all see as a nation? And what mechanisms are there to protect these people? What mechanism do we have to be able to insulate members of parliament from the harsh decisions of their political parties? Somebody will say, "Oh, if you can go independent." It is not about me going independent. It's about getting the right people to be devoted to the work of parliament. I have colleagues, and me. Let me say, I said it. People didn't know. People thought that it got to a time I feel that I am not serving the purpose for which I've been elected to this house
As MP
as an MP.
for Odododio.
Yes, because you see, one, let's all agree. We have turned our members of parliament in this country into, let me say, developmental agents.
But partly you brought it on yourself. We didn't turn it on you. We didn't turn you into
no,
anything.
you see,
you go around, when you are
it's not
campaigning,
true.
you go around telling
That
us that
people-
you are going to
people-
construct roads, build
Alfred,
things.
it's not true.
It's true.
It's not true.
So
It's not true.
At
You
least
see-
I can speak to some of you, maybe not all.
Well,
it is true.
You see, historically, culturally, socially, this country see people in position as the only people. All of us, society, has made it said that if Martin leaves this place today and enters his village, his community, everybody draws to him because they see him on television. They see him, this is a lecturer. So they think that he has the ability to resolve every problem that they have. Culturally. First, it was like if you're a people teacher in a community, if you're a pastor in a community, you are the one who resolves every problem. Even monetary problems, and you are the one who resolved it. So that is the way our culture has developed. Unfortunately for us, we were not able, when we were bringing in democratic governance, we were not able to educate the society to understand very well the responsibilities of members of parliament. So that whole cultural cloak has been put on members of parliament, and some people even believe a member of parliament can change a man into a woman. I'm being frank with you. Some people believe that members of parliament are resolving marital problems. Members of parliament are getting involved in issues that is not their responsibility. But that's the way society sees them.
Now, who calls them?
What I'm saying that as a people, we did it. We did it when we were doing the transition
Okay.
to democratic governance. We didn't educate, we didn't indoctrinate the people very well to appreciate what responsibilities members of parliament have. What responsibility the executive have, the legislature have. So today, people don't understand the difference between somebody who is a member of parliament and somebody who is in the executive.
Well,
So it becomes very difficult for us now to get a member of parliament to tell his people, that is not my responsibility. I said, what do you mean it's not your responsibility? Let me tell you, for example, just an example.
well, to round up for me.
Yeah. There was rubbish, whole rubbish around the UTC.
That's in your constituency.
My constituency. Somebody goes on radio and said, "Come on, MPA,
That the place is dirty. You, the MP, are not doing anything.
The person doesn't understand that is not the responsibility of the MP. That person doesn't understand that that's not the responsibility of the MP. So MPs are measured on issues that fall outside their responsibility. So it gets to a time the person becomes frustrated. Look,
Right.
a lot of our people, for example, let me give you an example. We mentioned Kobra Donko. One of the key issues that has led Kobra Donko losing primaries, it's not because he's not being a good MP. Because when it comes to the work of parliament, Kobra Donko is one of the people who have really helped. Aveji, someone like Benjamin Podo. Look, one thing I remember we did that has saved this country was when the local government committee, the minority local government committee, we decided to fight the Minister of Finance on the capping of the District Assembly's Common Fund. We have to get Podo and Richard Koshiga with Dr. Ine to go to the Supreme Court and fight this. Why? Because we saw that it's going to affect the development of the country through the local governance system. And it's clear. Today, up to today, it's fact, as I'm talking to you now, local government committee is going back to court, Supreme Court, to fight against the same decision of the Supreme Court was that 5% of total revenue. But government has persistently not added cocoa receipts, not added oil receipts to the total revenue before calculating the 5% they give it. So the 5% is only on tax revenue. You understand? We're going back to court. All these things are things that we do. You won't get anybody on the majority side to do this because that person is scared of the executive. We had a committee, local government committee. We fought against the issue of property rate, for example. At the committee level, we all agreed that we will not accept this because it will be detrimental to the development and the sustainability of the assemblies. When we got to the plenary, our colleagues from the other side were scared. We're scared.
Scared of who?
Scared of, because the decision was from the executive. The Minister of Finance, looking for money, had decided to now go and take property rate of the assemblies.
But so let me understand. Was it that you didn't want property rate to be collected, or the rates or the application of it? Because
The
I think this
Constitution-
property rate has been in the budget for as long as I can remember.
Last year. It was only last year.
I'm talking about the expansion and the effective collection of it. So I just wanted to understand.
Our argument after was that by the Public Financial Management Act and by the Constitution, the only institution mandated to collect property rate is the district assemblies. That's what our law says.
Okay.
You
I
understand
get the
me?
point. So
So if government thinks that the assemblies are not effectively collecting it, what the government needs to do is to build the institution.
okay,
Government needs to improve the capacity of the assemblies to be able to collect,
right.
but not to take away that responsibility. Because once you take that responsibility, what you are doing is that you are re-centralizing a decentralized function. And that is what the government did. Today, we've been vindicated. In the budget, the Minister of Finance said that the step they took didn't yield the results. So now it's been reversed back to the assemblies. We've been vindicated.
Indeed.
So what I'm saying that in those situations, if we had had our colleagues on the majority supporting our stand, we could have prevented the mistake from happening in the first place.
Right.
The same thing with the yield levy. If we had our majority, our colleagues in the majority supporting us, we could have prevented the issue of the yield levy and the embarrassment that happened after it.
Okay.
So the institutional development of the legislature should be paramount as we move forward. If you really want to continue with this app, because like many people said, as soon as people lose interest, people lose confidence in the legislature, our democracy is gone.